BitConnect! Hello everybody, welcome back to another Business Place. Very special one today. I don't really know why it's special. It's special because generally I like the ones where there's some sort of terrible scam. And also, this is particularly rich right now because I'm recording this, and quite recently, the Top 10, another channel I do called Top 10s, which some of you might know, totally got hacked by some hackers, and they were doing some cryptocurrency scam, and it was a huge pain in the ass. And there were so many people who just got sucked in by this, so that really sucked. So I guess in a way I was a little bit of a victim of a cryptocurrency scam, but I think it's slightly different to the ones we're going to be talking about today. Yeah, I will probably talk about that whole hack thing at a future point. I can't really talk about it right now, which will become clear why when I explain it all in the future. It's a bit of a mess, is what I'm trying to say, but this isn't why you're here. You're here for The Blaze, a channel which if you ever hear someone shilling Bitcoin on, don't do anything. It's not me, unless I've sold out and become a Bitcoin shill. Okay, so let's just jump in. Danny writes these, I read them, Sam adds some memes afterwards. He is as much a memologist as he is the editor of Business Place. Let's do it. About 2 or 3 years ago, a mate of mine, who I shan't name because he's a blithering idiot, blithering idiot is possibly the most British thing that someone can say. Oh, you blithering idiot! He just couldn't stop banging on about cryptocurrency. He once spent an entire evening trying to convince me that I should invest everything I had into Bitcoin. Don't do that. Because the value is set to soar over the coming weeks and months. He even bought the flashy hardware required to get involved in the mining of your own Bitcoins, as this was apparently the future. A friend of mine is into this, and he does make it work, according to him, and also he's got this huge rig and he uses it to heat part of his house. I actually think he was planning to retire from the profits within a year or two, even though he was only in his 30s. Yeah, me too. I'm planning to retire off my Business Place in a couple of years. We can all dream. For a while, I'm gonna sell Business Blaze for $1 billion, and then it'll just be crypto shill scams. For a while, I was very tempted to start trading on the cryptocurrency exchanges, mainly because I couldn't bear the thought of my mate becoming filthy rich while laughing at me for ignoring his sage advice. This is the classic FOMO, isn't it? Like, where you're like, oh, I don't want to miss out, but I know it's probably a mistake. It's like buying a lottery ticket. Like, if your work syndicate, you've got a syndicate at work, and everyone's an idiot and they're buying their lottery tickets because, let's be fair, the lottery is a tax on the poor. And can you imagine there's like 30 of you, and you're like, no, I'm going to invest my money. Oh, they'll be like, oh, mate, but Simon, it's only like 20p. Come on, get in for it. And then you're like, no, I'm actually going to use that. And then they win. That would suck so hard. FOMO. It's not about wanting to win the lottery. I don't want to win the lottery. I think winning the lottery would absolutely ruin my life. Because then, if I had success on YouTube, people would be like, oh, he bought it, didn't he? It'd be like one of those, the rich kids of like Instagram or whatever. It's like, you're only popular because your dad has like 17 Bentleys. It's like no one actually likes you. But I'm kind of glad that I resisted the temptation now. It might have been a shrewd move back in 2011 when the value of Bitcoin was at around 30 cents, but this was around the end of 2017 when the price had already skyrocketed to over $19,000. Buy the peak! Don't buy the peak. Remember, this is Business Place. It's not the place you actually go to for real business advice or analysis or, well, business at all, if we're being quite honest. But it was a time when just about everyone was jumping on the cryptocurrency gravy train because everyone believed that the value was only going to keep on climbing. How could it possibly go down? But it didn't. Within the space of just a year, the value had plummeted to just under £4,000, and my mate ended up losing a stack of money. And he quickly forgot about the mining thing too when he realized that the hardware was draining all of his electricity for the sake of generating about 40 pence a day. Idiot. It's a good job I don't ever listen to anyone's advice, ever. Which I recently found out was a trait of being a narcissist. I was always like, no, I'm not really a narcissist. Although the fact that I have 8 YouTube channels with my face plastered all over them might beg to differ. But I'm not someone who spends a lot of time looking at myself in the mirror. But then there are all these other traits of narcissism, like thinking you're only always right and not taking other people's advice. And I was like,
huh, wow. I guess I am a narcissist.
There's certainly no shortage of controversy when it comes, and so is Danny, that was my point here. There's certainly no shortage of controversy when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Some people see the likes of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum as the inevitable successors to conventional currency. Good luck with that one, guys. Blazing a path to global digital currency free from any government manipulation. Also, the number of conspiracy, or whatever you want to call them, people are like, no, we should be back on the gold standard. And I'm like, well, you sound like you're basing that on a lot of fear and a very limited understanding of economics. Others believe that cryptocurrencies are dangerously volatile and that we're currently just witnessing a speculative bubble which is destined to burst in the very near future. I don't know about that. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Personally, I kind of was hoping that I could assume everyone will already have a rudimentary understanding of cryptocurrency, so I won't have to spend about 40 minutes explaining how this works. But bearing in mind that I recently felt it necessary to explain what an Oreo sandwich cookie was, that now seems like a bit of a cop-out. Yeah, there was a script recently, I think it was on the Who Was, What Happened to Ken, Barbie's husband, boyfriend, toy boy, escort, as we found out in that video. Danny described an Oreo, and I was like, Danny, it's not really necessary. Everyone knows what an Oreo is. Okay, so now we're going to get 40 minutes on cryptocurrencies as punishment. Without wanting to get too deeply into it, cryptocurrencies are digital currencies secured by cryptography. Most cryptocurrencies are decentralized networks based on blockchain technology, which effectively acts as a distributed public ledger enforced by a disparate network of computers. Oh god, I'm so confused. Easy, says Danny. To put it another way, cryptocurrencies are virtual currencies which exist outside the world of governments, real banks, and central authorities. Which to me just sounds like, well, so they're for crimes. The main roadblock to constructing such a currency in the past, 3-wolf mug, was double spending, in which the same digital token or data file is easily duplicated and spent more than once. This was always going to be a big problem without a single central authority to monitor the books and validate each payment. Cryptocurrencies, they get around this problem with blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, I feel, is like the new AI. Like, if I'm making an app, and I'm like, yeah, it's Simon's magical fact app, if I just throw in the end of it AI blockchain, it's like, whew, let's give him some investment money. That AI blockchain is where it's at. It's like the adding IFI to the end of your company name, like the Simonify app would be, the same thing in 2005. Instead of a bank printing out new notes whenever it feels like it, new digital tokens or bitcoins or whatever are generated by those miners who receive brand new currency in exchange for their energy-draining efforts in validating transactions and adding them to the public ledger. Or to put it another way, cryptocurrencies are just like normal currency, but invisible and magic. I'm sure that explaining an Oreo sandwich cookie was much easier than this. It was, Danny. I'm also a little bit confused, but it just seems that they're a currency that is decentralized because everyone has this ledger so you can see what's going on and it's publicly accessible, so there's no double spending of currency. So it's just a currency that instead of a bank controlling it, it's controlled by the people. It's like, I'm sure there's some joke about socialism or communism that I'm missing here that, if I was smarter or read these ahead of time, I would have thought of. But I didn't. Even legitimate cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have often come under fire for allegedly helping to facilitate anonymous illegal transactions. Yes, like the Silk Road is maybe something else we could do a video on at some point. And that was basically a website where you could just go on, it's like, oh yeah, murder for hire, heroin, fake passports. Holy shit. This is like eBay of crime. Back in 2017, an Australian research team estimated that no less than 44% of all Bitcoin transactions involved illegal activity. Over the last decade or so, many economists, investors, journalists, elevator designers, OG Business Blaze legend joke right there, and even central banks have voiced concerns that Bitcoin is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. Oh, come on, well, central banks, they would say that, wouldn't they? Illuminati confirmed. Also, they've got a lot of smart economists there who are like, seems a bit risky, doesn't it? I mean, maybe not the big ones, but there's a whole lot of scams, as eventually, we're gonna get to, I hope, because I'm already gonna get accused of clickbait for it being this long before we've actually got to, some useful content. Welcome to Business Blaze. Smash that dislike button. One law professor at the University of Chicago expanded on this theme by saying, a real Ponzi scheme takes fraud. Bitcoin, by contrast, seems more like a collective delusion. We should probably make it clear. I can already hear the comments. Simon, currency, money is a collective delusion. And I'm like, yeah, but it buys me shit, doesn't it? We should probably make it clear, though, that the World Bank concluded in 2014 that Bitcoin was not a deliberate Ponzi scheme, while in that same year, the Swiss Federal Council made their position crystal clear when they announced that it cannot be assumed that Bitcoin is a pyramid scheme. This is very complicated wording, the exact sort of thing I'd expect from you know, it's a big government entity. However, while the current frontrunners in the cryptocurrency industry are managing to attract such strongly worded exonerations and gushing approval from leading financial institutions, not really. It should also be noted that the industry has also allegedly attracted more than its fair share of alleged fraudulent companies who have alleged. It's going to be a big part of this video. I get a strong feeling about that. You know, we're not saying this is just what people might say, who have been accused of allegedly scamming real money out of the alleged hands of alleged victims. There's also the other cases where perpetrators were found guilty in court, the filthy, no-good scamming swines. Yes, when they're found guilty in court, we can go nuts.
75 years later.
BitConnect. I've heard of this one because there's a very popular personal finance YouTuber. If you're looking for actual business and personal finance advice, definitely subscribe to Graham Stephan, who I probably won't link to below, but I'm sure if you just search Graham, he'll be the first person to come up. He actually delivers useful advice. I deliver jokes. Badly. I don't know why people watch this channel. In October of 2017, the cryptocurrency platform BitConnect hosted its very... Oh, and I think, did I mention it? My whole point was he rips into BitConnect all the time. They hosted the very first annual ceremony in Pattaya in Thailand. It would be its very last, which is a shame because big chunks of it were glittering comedy gold. One particularly enthusiastic investor called Carlos Matos took to the stage to share his optimistic outlook for the future of BitConnect and to quell any concerns about the press stories circulating at the time, which were suggesting that the platform might just be a scam. His unique approach was to dance around the stage as if he was completely off his tits and frequently shout, BitConnect! BitConnect! I think I have seen that video actually, for some reason. But I don't remember how he shouts, but let's assume it was exactly like that. I'm hoping Sam can show a little bit of the thrilling footage at this point. Please do, Sam. And if it's not here, dear audience, afterwards, it's because I had to remove it because I got a copyright claim. I don't know, whoever owns that footage. Maybe BitConnect? It's fascinating to see the other investors and officials on the stage behind Carlos Matos politely smiling but clearly inwardly wishing that they'd booked Big Bird from Sesame Street for a slightly more credible vibe. The BitConnect platform had launched a year earlier in 2016 under the veil of mystery. The team behind the launch remained completely anonymous, and it wasn't even immediately clear what they were even trying to achieve. Based on their early promotional videos, the team appeared to be from Vietnam, although one of the more transparent BitConnect entities was registered as a UK company in Ashford. I grew up very close to Ashford, and I think in a previous video I made a joke about the next station, if I was doing the voices for the trains, like, the next station is Ashford International, because that was like the nearest big station to me. The plans became a little clearer a few months later when the company announced its intention to become a cryptocurrency lending platform. The helpful online graphic which accompanied the announcement should maybe have raised a few early alarm bells as it was littered with horrendous spelling mistakes. But the general idea was that you could deposit money into BitConnect, which would be locked into the platform for a while and lent out to other users in exchange for a high monthly yield. I'm fairly sure, like, I've done videos on Ponzi schemes. Pretty sure that's the definition of a Ponzi scheme. After you signed up, you'd be bombarded with affiliate links to help spread the word on BitConnect and gain even higher yields on your investments. Wow, this is transparently. It sounds very similar to a Ponzi scheme. Yes, it does, Danny. Same page. But it surely couldn't be a Ponzi scheme. Don't know, it sounds a lot like one, doesn't it? Because it was attracting strong endorsements from YouTubers such as Crypto Nick, Trevin James, and Craig Grant, who all claim to be reaping huge dividends from the platform. Yeah, maybe those guys just, I mean, if you were part of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme and you were getting like 10% a year, of course you'd be telling your friends about it. You'd be like, I'm getting great returns. But, you know, you haven't taken out your money. I don't know. I don't know anything about these guys. I've never heard of these guys. It sounds like they could, I don't know, maybe they could just be victims as well. I don't know, maybe there's more here, maybe they're also super dumb. I'm gonna stop commenting before I get in trouble. Cause someone would be like, dude, that guy, Steve or whatever his name was, he was like a massive scammer. I'd be like, oh, shit, okay. Probably should have looked into this. It seemed to be doing pretty well. At the beginning of 2018, the platform's new BCC coin was being traded at just under $500 per coin, while the BitConnect project as a whole was valued at $2.6 billion. Oh my god, that's a lot of money. However, is that real money though? Because I could be like, yeah, I got my Simon coin, it's the best pimp coin ever, and it's worth, they're £1 million each, and I've got 1,000 of them, so that's worth $1 billion. However, a few weeks later, BitConnect closed down its lending platform. The value of BCC coin dropped to $1 per coin, and approximately $3 million worth of investor money was wiped out. Perhaps the main reason that BitConnect closed down its lending platform because it ran out of fresh investment to pay off those high-yield monthly returns, in much the same way that a Ponzi scheme might, even though this definitely wasn't one of those.
Whoa, what's up?
I guess this hasn't been proven in court yet, so we're couching our language very carefully. Maybe it was. Also, those high-yield promises were completely impossible to honor. According to their claims, a deposit of $1,000 would generate a 40% monthly return.
What?
Although your money would be locked in for between 120 and 299 days. That's not a bad deal, really, because if you kept reinvesting the interest each month, you'd finish off with about $55,000 after just 1 year. Pro tip, guys. Whenever, and this also happens on YouTube, there are these people who are like, yeah, I'm the stock trading wizard, and I just aim for a return of 2% a week. And you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like much, that sounds totally feasible. Just don't. Just go look at what Warren Buffett makes in a percentage a year, and just bear in mind that he's the best person in the world. And some dude who's selling you a course on YouTube promising to make you like 2% a week? No, just no. No one does that. No one does that. And if they did, they would be a billionaire, and they wouldn't sell a course for $500.
I'm telling him, Bohani, listen, this is real. No. That's a scam.
Or if you had a bit more money to invest and you were willing to keep reinvesting your interest for 10 years, you could potentially end up turning a $10,000 investment into a cool $92 million. Pro tip. You can't. It's perhaps not too surprising that the bottom fell out of such a ludicrous enterprise, which was clearly not a Ponzi scheme in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely not. Following the decision to drop the lending platform and the subsequent fall in value of the BCC coin in early 2018, which is now suspected to be caused by those on the inside offloading all their coins back onto the market, the currency was eventually delisted from every cryptocurrency exchange in the world, rendering the BCC coin utterly worthless. So you could get out. I don't know if that makes a difference to whether that would be allegedly a Ponzi scheme or not. Not sure. No comment. The most gutting aspect of all is that although over 1.5 million people lost their money in BitConnect, in many cases their whole life savings, the shadowy team behind the enterprise have so far not faced justice, and it seems very unlikely that anyone will get their money back. It appears that BitConnect constructed a labyrinth of different entities which were registered in different tax havens, and much of the money is now considered to be untraceable. Several lawsuits are still in progress, including cases against some of the high-profile YouTubers who helped promote BitConnect. The alleged leader of Indian operations, Divyesh Darji, a man with previous form on money laundering schemes, was arrested in 2019 but released on bail and is now a wanted man on run from the police. Holy shit. John Bigerton, who has been identified as the director of Australian promotions, is currently under investigation by Australian Federal Police. He has regularly claimed that he and his wife Madeline have been the target of death threats from disgruntled investors who lost all their money. Disturbingly, Madeline Bigerton dropped her kids off at school on March the 25th, 2018, and has never been seen since. Holy shit. This got real. Meanwhile, that enthusiastic investor, Carlos Matos, doesn't sound quite so keen on BitConnect today, having admitted that at one point he had over $250,000 invested in the platform, which has now been completely wiped out.
Whoa!
He's currently promoting some weird health and fitness shit, which sounds equally dubious. Oh no, who is this guy? But it's very probably that the real legacy of BitConnect will be the memes and stickers and remixes and parodies of that distinctive onstage performance in 2018. Next up, PinCoin. Sometimes all you really need to pull the wool over people's eyes is a half-decent website and a couple of nice events where guests can eat sausages on sticks and talk to each other about how fabulously wealthy they're going to become. You may be thinking that anyone who chose to invest in BitConnect on the understanding that they would get monthly returns of 40% probably deserved to lose all their money because they should have stopped to work out the maths. No, I actually disagree there. I think these things are designed to suck people in. People are not that financially literate, which I believe is a failure of our educational system. And no, I don't think these people are actually to blame. I think the who set up these alleged scams are the people who carry 99% of the blame. But spare a thought more than that. But spare a thought for PinCoin investors. They were told they would get 48%. The Vietnam company what's up with Vietnam? And the Vietnam company Modern Tech launched PinCoin in January 2018, which it was curiously the exact same month that BitConnect, who were also believed to have Vietnamese origins, started to run into trouble. But we probably shouldn't draw any speculative conclusions from that. Maybe they shared the same window cleaners though. PinCoin was launched through an ICO, an initial coin offering, which is kind of like the cryptocurrency version of a company's initial public offering, except that it's completely unregulated, and investors aren't usually offered a stake in the company. Sounds kind of shitty, doesn't it? It's probably closer to Kickstarter in the sense that investors are effectively given perks for throwing their money at the project, usually a shitload of the new actual currency itself, or a promise to get rich quick on monthly returns. This is all so shady, isn't it? And like Kickstarter, I think I've mentioned it before, I think I've been a bit involved in 2 Kickstarter projects. They both kind of sucked. In PinCoins, it's like, oh yeah, so the product's not really as good as you promised, and I had to wait 6 months to get it, and the special price just seems to be the regular price. I'm sure there are good Kickstarter projects, but it's kind of like a bit shit, isn't it? In PinCoin's case, the offer of 48% monthly return may have seemed preposterous to some, as it rightly should, but the ICO actually managed to attract over $660 million of funding from around 32,000 investors. This seemed to be based on very little more than the fact that Modern Tech had been throwing a few special parties all over Asia to build up a loyal user base for PinCoin, and they had a very nice website with fancy graphics, as well as a compelling white paper which sounded professional on first glance and promised much. It has to be said, though, that even just slightly scratching the surface of the website and the white paper revealed a few clues that those promises might not end up getting fulfilled. For starters, they were full of horrendous spelling mistakes. So it seems like if you're ever thinking about investing in something, if it's out of Vietnam and they don't know how to spell, maybe just step away. Pretty much like BitConnect's online announcement, although again, we're drawing no parallels there, certainly not. You can draw those parallels yourself. It's maybe just worth noting that it's quite common for a scam operation to release material littered with typos because they're usually not keen to bring someone as trivial as a professional writer or a proofreader into their close circle of deceit. The other thing you can't fail to notice is that the website and white paper just seem to be largely spouting completely incomprehensible bollocks. PinCoin's mission was to build an online collaborative consumption platform with a global community based on principles of sharing economy, blockchain technology, and cryptocurrency. This sounds like Simon's AI blockchain app. It's possible that many of those 32,000 investors, wow, that's a lot of people who got into this, were just blinded by meaningless jargon. It sounded good, but nobody wanted to admit that they were too dumb to understand it. Best believe all the technical stuff to the experts, they know what they're doing. Probably. A month after launch, all the investors received their expected monthly returns, but by the second month, things weren't quite looking so good, because that's when you start getting up to that 100% return, isn't it? Instead of receiving their monthly returns in cash as they had the previous month, investors suddenly started receiving their returns in something called iFan tokens, which are apparently much more valuable than boring old money. It's like, yeah, I mean, when I go to the shop, I just pay with iFan tokens. Modern Tech had taken the time to launch a second new cryptocurrency called iFan, which was apparently meant to be a social media token used by celebrities around the world, possibly at the Fire Festival. It was an incredibly vague concept, and nobody really knew what it was supposed to be or do. iFan wasn't even listed on any cryptocurrency exchange, by the way, so the tokens were completely worthless. Well, damn. It felt as if investors had been promised a 48% return in cash, but ended up receiving it in monopoly money, which is what happens when you're promised a 48% return a month. Some of the investors weren't happy with being fobbed off with a bunch of utterly worthless digital tokens, and so they organized protests outside the super swanky Modern Tech office in Ho Chi Minh City. Sadly, they were too late. The office was completely deserted. Even the window cleaners had downed tools and disappeared. The founders of the scheme had taken all the money, hundreds of millions of dollars or several trillion, wow, that's an inflated currency, Vietnamese dong, and disappeared. Wow, that is brutal. Although the Vietnamese Prime Minister has ordered 6 governmental ministries to investigate the scam, it's again very unlikely that anyone will ever get back a single dollar or dong. The people believed to be behind the scheme are likely to have already fled the country, and the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies means that it would be almost impossible to trace the stolen loot anyway. However, the investigation has brought several suspected Vietnamese names to light, but I won't list them here, partly because they haven't been tried or found guilty of any crimes, but more importantly, because it would just sound as if Simon was making a bunch of silly noises. Thank you, Danny, it's appreciated. OneCoin to rule them all! I should not make Lord of the Rings references because I have not seen it or read it, and have no desire to. Or time. It's with some relief that I can approach OneCoin without having to be quite so careful about my choice of language, because there's no shred of doubt that OneCoin was a filthy scam. The only surprise is how it managed to keep on going for quite so long, having been closed down just very recently after 5 years of blatantly fraudulent activity. The concept of OneCoin was first introduced in the UK. What's up with Vietnam and the UK? In 2016, when Bulgarian businesswoman Ruya Ignatova stepped onto the stage of Wembley Arena in London to the tune of This Girl Is On Fire by Alicia Keys. The scene looked disturbingly like a weird cult, as an audience of devoted followers appeared to worship their money god on the stage. By this time, Ruja had already made, I'm pretty sure it's like Ruya, or similar, but I'm just going to go with Ruja. Ruja had already made a splash in other corners of the globe, appearing on the cover of such publication as Bulgarian Forbes and Financial IT, and she'd picked the nickname of the Queen of Cryptocurrency. I don't think you get to pick your own nickname, although someone recently made a joke about me being the Pope of YouTube on Twitter, and I literally just replied before doing this video, I prefer the sobriquet God King. But that was sarcasm. This doesn't seem like sarcasm. However, this turned out to be a bit like labeling David Hasselhoff as the king of pop music. He's not. I didn't even really know he made music until we made that video about that Berlin airport which fell apart. Or, was never really put together, to be honest. The OneCoin project had been founded a couple of years ago in 2014 by Ruja and her brother Konstantin Ignatov and Sweden-based entrepreneur Sebastian Greenwood. Wow, for a Swedish entrepreneur, Sebastian Greenwood has the easiest to pronounce name ever. Oh, shrewd investors were invited to purchase OneCoin's educational packages, which ranged anywhere from between €110 to €188,000. Each starter package could be used to mine brand new OneCoins, which could then be exchanged for real money via the OneCoin exchange. It was a concept which quickly seemed to take off all over the world, particularly in places like Auckland, in New Zealand, and Cairns in Australia, Cairns. I don't know, Australians, it's like, I said Melbourne as Melbourne once. It was a storm of controversy. And here's how much I cared. Moving on, which reputedly managed to drum up millions of dollars in investment between them. In fact, it's estimated that OneCoin managed to attract over $4 billion worth of investment worldwide. Although some suggest that the scope and reach of the project is yet to be fully uncovered, and the final figure will turn out to be closer to $19 billion. Oh my god, we are getting to Bernie Madoff level right now. However, the problem with the new OneCoin cryptocurrency was very simple. It wasn't actually a cryptocurrency at all. There was no blockchain technology involved, there was no public ledger, and OneCoin wasn't even listed on a cryptocurrency exchange. In other words, you could piss about mining as many of them as you liked, but the true value of them was zero. The OneCoin exchange wasn't even really an exchange. It was just a private scheme run by the company which enforced very strict initial limits on how much real money you could withdraw, while making promises that the value of your freshly mined OneCoins would soar in the future. This sounds familiar. So barely any of the $4 billion invested into OneCoin ever made it back into the hands of the miners. In short, OneCoin was nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. But it has to be said that it was a massively successful one for the founders of the company, for a while at least. Let's see what happens to them. I get the feeling, because Daddy's like, we don't have to couch our language in this one, maybe they're in prison. In October 2017, Ruja Iganova, the crypto queen, was due to take stage at a packed house in Lisbon in Portugal, but she never showed up. In fact, she's never been seen since. Oh, did she get away? Oh, this is exciting. This is like true crime. Oh, you can't really blame her for doing a bunk, although she could have had the decency to warn the ticket-paying audience first. I'd like to think that maybe they brought on Carlos Matos as a last-minute substitute.
A real hard time counting it!
BitConnect! By this time, OneCoin had been globally exposed as a fraud and was gradually getting banned in countries such as Bulgaria, Hungary, and Thailand, quickly followed by Croatia, China, and India. A few months prior to Rudger's no-show, 18 people were arrested in Navi, Mumbai for organizing a OneCoin recruitment event. Rudger's brother, Konstantin, briefly took charge of operations after his sister's sudden disappearance, but he was eventually arrested in the US in November 2019 and pled guilty to charges of money laundering and fraud. He faces up to 90 years in jail. Oh, Rudger, you should have let your brother know. Oh, that is absolutely brutal. And he got arrested in America. Hell, wherever he got arrested, they'd eventually get him. He's going to prison for a while. Co-founder, maybe you'll share like a cell with Bernie. Co-founder Sebastian Greenwood was extradited from Thailand to the US in 2019. I have to say, based on what, those documentaries you see about prison, there's a British one, Locked Up Abroad. And it's like, based on what I know about Thai prisons, I'll be like, oh, thank God. It's because I've seen Prison Break, and I'm sure US prison isn't, brilliant. But Thai prison? That And I mean, this is like white-collar crime, so you're gonna go to the, not the we'll rape you in the showers prison, but like Bernie Madoff prison. That's how it works, right? Although it's believed that this information was originally never intended to become public, just a few days before I write this very script, it was revealed that he has been indicted on 5 counts of fraud. Meanwhile, the crypto queen herself faces a string of money laundering charges if she ever turns up again, but there's been no trace of her for over 2 years. It's believed that she may be living in Frankfurt under a false identity. It'd be a bit bad if she was living under a real identity, because then they'd be like, oh, well, it's you, isn't it? Almost unbelievably, despite being duped out of billions of dollars, many OneCoin investors remain blindly faithful to Rudger, Konstantin, and the gang of villains that took their money. A recent petition to free Konstantin Ignatov managed to get 20,000 signatures from devoted followers of the cult currency. It seems as if Rudger and her associates somehow managed to inspire devout support from an army of faithful disciples who are quick to dismiss any criticism of their leaders as fake news. Thank goodness there aren't too many other notable cases of this kind of thing going on in the world today. Sarcasm. Bonus fact. It seems quite appropriate that the genius brain behind the inventor of an invisible currency belongs to a man who probably doesn't even exist. Satoshi Nakamoto is the name attached to the developer of Bitcoin, the inventor of the world's first blockchain database, and the author of the Bitcoin white paper. But it's now believed that Satoshi Nakamoto is just a pseudonym for either one brilliant mind or, more likely, a team of seemingly very shy developers. Although the name may sound Japanese, it's now considered more likely that the real developers are native English speakers, as the documentation for the original Bitcoin software was labeled in fluent English rather than Japanese. There has been much speculation over the years as to the real identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, with candidates including former drug dealer Paul LaRue and the Brian Wilson or Robbie Williams of the PayPal mafia, Elon Musk. If you get that joke, OG Business Plays legends. I've got £5 on David Hasselhoff. Yes, maybe it was the Hoffmeister or whatever he goes by, who cares. This has been Business Plays. Thank you for watching. If you watched to the end, well, you're an absolute legend, because all of that sweet watch time, and this felt like a long one. I don't know if it was. I like this. I like these kind of ones that are like, oh shit, what happened? Smash that like button if you enjoyed it. Smash that dislike button if you didn't, and I'll see you next time. I don't know why people watch this channel.